Good afternoon, everybody. This is Brian Ankney with AutoSuccess. Hey, I appreciate you coming to this webinar today and taking some time out of your day to learn. Today, our guest is Gina Rusher. She's going to share with us, several ways of how to reach millennials the most effectively. Before we get started, a couple of things that I'd like to point out to you is if you're not familiar with GoToWebinar, if you're on a desktop or a laptop or a large tablet, you'll have a pane on the right side of your screen. In that pane, there's near the bottom is a place for questions. We're going to hold the questions to the end of the webinar today, and but as we go through, so you don't forget your questions, go ahead and type them in there, any questions you have, and at the end of the webinar, Gina and I will, go over. I'll read all the questions to Gina. Also, if you have not yet, please go to Facebook and join AutoSuccess Webinars. It's simple. Just go to the search bar on AutoSuccess Webinars, on Facebook, and type in AutoSuccess Webinars. It will bring up AutoSuccess Webinars. It's a group. You can request to join it, and then we'll accept you. And in that group, what we invite you to do is to both interact with our past and future speakers and each other. Each other is the most important part there, because today, everybody's going to learn some new stuff. And with that new stuff, there'll be multiple steps. And so as you go through the steps, you're going to hit challenges. And so what I'd invite you to do is go to that group and share the challenges, share your successes. And so we can all learn from each other and continue to improve. I'd like to introduce Gina. Gina, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yes, I hear you wonderfully.
Okay, great. Well, so today we're actually just going to go through a part one in this series. I know a lot of us are recovering from the show, and there's just so much to cover. I'm kind of a market research geek, and the more I get into it, the more there is to share that's really relevant to car dealers. So just a little bit about myself. I am not a millennial. I am definitely a millennial at heart. And as we go through some of the psychology behind that, you'll know what that means. Market research is kind of a millennial thing. Sarcasm is too. So when you don't get my jokes as we go along with that, you'll appreciate that too. So I've been personally in the auto business side of marketing only for about 6 or 7 years, but I have almost 20 years experience in affiliate marketing, online marketing, websites, the sales side of it, heavy market research, behavioral marketing, and tracking and performance management. So that kind of sounds all over the place, but for those of you who are also marketers, I think you know that that is all inclusive, especially for the omni-channel approach that I really advocate. And so, oh, look, we've got my slide up here. And so, this definitely isn't about me, it's about you. I just wanted to briefly go over, what makes me qualified to talk about all of this. And so I like to start out with one of my favorite quotes. I don't know if we're ready to go to the next slide. Nope. We skipped, I think we skipped one, no?
Wait, is this the slide you want, Gina?
Yeah, that'll work. Thanks.
Okay.
Because that reminds me to tell you that there's good news. And if you've been studying millennials, they've previously been written off as kind of being disinterested in driving or unable to purchase. They've got college debt. There's a downturn economy, there's some kind of unemployment, but millennials are finally buying cars. They're finally growing up. This generation is now responsible for a whopping $4 million cars, and trucks purchased in the U.S. That's just last year. So millennials, especially the older ones, are these days buying cars, and they're doing so in big numbers. They just had a little bit of a late start, that's all, little late bloomers, which really, like I said, isn't surprising. They're growing older, they're finally, if you're the parent of one, moving out of their parents' homes. And so I'm going to go over on the next slide, who are millennials? As marketers, we tend to focus a lot of energy on millennials. This has been going on for the last several years. We've been slicing and dicing their lives into numbers, and trying to really make sense of who they are on a lot of levels. So there's a lot of research, obviously, to be found if you want to Google anything from their top financial goals to ways in which they use their cell phones. Not a lot yet on automotive marketing, and we're going to change that. There also, I want to kind of quantify, if you are looking into this research on your own, there are a few problems defining millennials. Really, who are they? Mainly because there's no consensus in the definition. Some would argue that it's kind of a marketing construct, just like maybe Valentine's is a made-up Hallmark holiday, that maybe marketers just kind of made this up to figure out how to market to them and really exploit that, but to bend the message depending on the SKU. But that's why you'll see some studies that millennials have outnumbered baby boomers, while others still kind of say that it'll be around the year 2020 before that happens. Regardless, it's happening. It's happening now. And it's a really remarkable shift, I think, in our culture and how we approach the market, kind of as any generation has been. Baby boomers were the largest population in history, and that is not so. Millennials are definitely taking over. So this is just kind of a general demographic on who millennials are. Again, I kind of took, for my purposes today, I used the age bracket of 16 to 36. I kind of borrowed that from one of the main studies done. This is the most popular age range done by Accenture, just to keep it simple so that we can stay on the same page. J.D. Powers will tell you that it's 21 to 38. This kind of gives them a 28% jump in the new car market last year. So I think the main thing to keep in mind is just to not limit our perspective and kind of backing up, not losing our perspective to realize that if you're not catering to this generation now, they're definitely the next generation of car buyers, like they said, by the year 2020. And they're at a really exciting juncture in their lives. Like I said, they're getting married, they're buying cars, and just really exciting. Okay. So what makes this generation unique? What's most important in their lives makes them unique. If you had listened at all, or if you were privy to my last webinar and kind of what I went over at Digital Dealers, the proven psychology behind video marketing and emotions and sales, these cues will tell us a lot as we go about creating our own video marketing and really defining our message as we speak to them through video. So I thought it was important, and I liked listing these. The most important thing in their lives is being a good parent. Many of millennials are not parents yet, but many are, and overwhelmingly, that's everybody, right? If you are a parent, being a good parent is #1 to you. 30% having a successful marriage. I don't know if you caught the slide preview. No need to go backwards to that. But already in that age range of 16 to 36, there's a 4% divorce rate already. 75% are single. So, I don't know if this is a hopeful message or if it's only speaking to those 21% that are married. But having a successful marriage is important to them. So again, thinking about that when you create your message. Helping others in need, owning a home, having a high payout career, and having lots of free time. Again, after this webinar, I don't mind at all resending any of you the deck. I know Brian doesn't mind sending. They've got the last webinar about the psychology and how to create those messages. You'll find that it's very parallel, it's very aligned. And so both of these presentations work together very well to help you create those messages. And so I also thought it was interesting the other naming conventions for millennials. Again, that might have been kind of a made-up name. And you may also have heard of millennials referenced as the Gen Yers. Obviously, for obvious reasons, it follows the Gen Xers. Echo boomers, I had never heard that before. Children of baby boomers. It only makes sense that since baby boomers were previously the largest generation in history, that by having children, now the millennials are the largest in history. And when I talk about this, I want you to know that I'm talking about millennials in the U.S. I didn't want to go global for this one, because I know most of the audience is definitely U.S., Canada. If any of you are interested in more global perspective, please feel free to reach out to myself or Brian, and I'd love to take a deeper dive into that with you. The one that I liked was the boomerang generation. I kind of hinted to that, that they had a tendency to move back in with their parents after college, but that's they're getting the old boot. So they are getting out there on their own. They have more financial freedom and are finding those good jobs that they went to college for. And also the Peter Pan generation, again, I kind of hinted to that it's just kind of a delayed rite of passage into adulthood. And that's only when comparing with previous relationships, and that's just kind of the sign of our times as well. I thought it was interesting that one of the reasons it's kind of hard to define millennials, I would say, is because most millennials don't even identify themselves as millennials. Sometimes they relate more to those Gen Xers. They feel that they're culturally more similar. So I just want you, again, to keep that in perspective in mind. And in other words, cultural and behavioral tendencies don't tend to have a fixed age break. Many would argue, and I met with someone over Digital Dealer that is really heavy into looking at personas, which I love that idea, rather than age brackets, and there's services out there that will help dealerships do that. But again, I'm just strictly going by age in US here. Okay, so next one. What defines them? This is according to millennials themselves. So when surveyed in the US, what defines you, to those of them that do identify with millennials? Again, they grew up in the technology world. They don't know a world without technology and without devices. They tend to kind of take that for granted. So technology defines them. Music and pop culture defines them. Again, they carry it with them everywhere. At the airport, I got home from the airport and I noticed that millennial types, including myself, the millennial at heart, have my earphones in, and it's mostly just music or audiobooks, or I kind of always have a device stuck to me, whether it be because I'm doing some kind of research, or I'm doing social media, or I'm just listening to music and kind of checking out. There's a culture of tolerance. For the first time ever in history, Caucasians, just kind of that demographic is the minority when stacked against the others. And again, there was a slide that kind of defined that you can look back later. Clothes and fashion, and then intelligence. They had so many that went to college, like we hinted at before, so they really consider themselves intelligent, and they crave information. They just want it served up to them in a different way. They want it served up, in their preferred way. So on the next slide, what are their numbers? Oops, that kind of did not translate right. So again, I will provide my deck to you all. At the last minute, I kind of sent a PowerPoint to Brian, and he's doing the driving for me. Thank you very much, but looks like that didn't really propagate very well. So that does not, that won't slow us down though. There are currently 75.4 million millennials. This, again, surpasses baby boomers as the largest generation. They're expected to start spending at least $200 billion annually. This is starting next year. So definitely we want to grab onto this opportunity now. Depending on what research, whether it's J.D. Powers or Inamoto, we definitely, we're in it right now. So we want to do our homework now. And I think in the beginning, this is kind of what I was hinting at before, is my favorite quote, because it does come from in the automotive industry, and that'll be on the next slide, from the president of Nielsen Automotive. You know, I think that auto dealers want to tap into this spending powerhouse. We just said 200 billion. How do we tap into that? Well, I think the first step is to understand the millennial purchasing habits and exactly what they respond to. And that's what Patrick Gardner is also hinting to here. Understanding the motivators of car buying intenders that allows us to create messaging that will resonate strongly with this demographic. Now, he was talking a little more generally, but the message is the same. Overwhelmingly, marketing experts have identified video as the key influencer in millennial lives. So by understanding that motivator, as Patrick says, and linking the automotive demand with the consumer sentiments and media habits is going to be vital for us, our success as we move into 2017 and farther into the future. So on the next slide, if you know me at all, you'll kind of know I like to have fun with, you know, with the emojis, because that's a very millennial thing as well. Millennials love video. So according to Nielsen, the average millennial watches 35 minutes of online video every day. Now this is spread between Netflix, YouTube, ads, and other sources, but they seek engagement, and video is their preferred medium to get that experience. That's in any of their shopping experience as they go out and they're looking at these new homes that they're buying, as they're doing research, as they are getting married, and as they are buying cars, as that biggest demographic that are purchasing cars right now. So the next slide is going to give us some more numbers just to kind of back up why you are going to want to take back to your dealership. What, you know, why am I spending so much money, or so much time, I'm sorry, in focusing on this group? Well, here's why, because here's some, you know, some numbers that kind of support that. In a recent study also, I'm not, you know, you guys can see that on the screen. I'm not going to read those all to you. But this is some more numbers that I thought was really relevant from Inamoto. They discovered these powerful stats about millennials using video to help them with the purchasing decision. So, you know, right there at the top, 80% consider video when reaching a purchasing decision. Decisions spelled wrong, I'll get that fixed for y'all. 7 out of 10 are likely to watch a company video when shopping online. So they're not just on YouTube and Netflix. This is how they are shopping online as well. This one isn't on there. 76 follow brands on YouTube. So, you know, if you're not on YouTube, if you're kind of relying on the OEMs to do that, get up there, get on YouTube. There are easy ways, you know, to distribute your videos across multiple channels. It's not like you have to upload those to every single one. So, you know, don't think that that's going to be a hassle. It's not. Consider that part of your overall marketing strategy if you haven't already. Millennials are 150% more likely than baby boomers to comparison shop with video while in store. And I think we talk about that a lot. If a consumer is on one dealership, they're definitely looking at their comparison shopping right there, not only between vehicles and getting that kind of versus information, but also between dealerships. So again, as you're looking into your video marketing strategy, how that fits into your overall strategy. Think about geo-targeting and geofencing as well. And again, there's technology out there that makes that easy for you. 4 in 5 find video helpful during the initial research and for their purchasing decision. So it's going throughout their entire buying journey. They are looking into video at every step. Don't just think this is in the higher funnel marketing stage. It's definitely in those lower funnel sales stages as well. So nearly 3/4 of millennials, or 74%, find video helpful when comparison shopping. Again, that just kind of echoes what I had said before. And the last one is that millennials are 85% more likely than baby boomers to purchase a product or service if they can watch a video explaining it beforehand. So 85% is a big number. Again, going back to the 150% that are more likely to be comparison shopping while in store, if you don't have video, even just an explainer video or welcome video, proposition value video, anything, and your competitor does, you're kind of already not in the market for that particular purchase. So after all of that, what does that mean? If you saw my psychology behind, I kind of had this slide too. And I got a little more abrasive with it this time. Just cut the crap. We already know, and we learned on a previous slide, that millennials tend to be tech and marketing savvy. They don't respond to obvious marketing ploys. So I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying for months now is, stop with the monster blowout sales and kind of that overly exaggerated deal, buy now. We used to call it, when I was at Fenn, the purple gorilla on top of the dealership. While those have their place, absolutely, in video they don't. They're just too obvious. In particular, just kind of tone it down. Tone down the promotional hype. And here's another one for you. 2 in 3 millennials will actually lose interest in a video if it's too self-promotional. Again, there are places for that, and there's other marketing companies that will help you decide in your overall marketing strategy where that fits and where it doesn't. And I'm just telling you it doesn't fit in your video marketing strategy. What we're trying to do here is really create a bond with them, a trust. So just keep that in mind. While, I mentioned that word trust, while the total population still does trust TV ads over other traditional media, video marketing overall, so even take out that we're just talking about millennials right now, overall video marketing is right now, the #1 trusted digital ad format. And then we saw in previous slides where that is just, those numbers are just increasing all the time. So be there right now. 2/3 of advertisers agree, actually, that the original digital video programming will become just as important as TV within 5 years. And I've heard, I was just talking to somebody at Digital Dealer the other day, the experts are saying that it's actually going to replace TV. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But experts are saying that within 5 years, and that hits that 2020 mark, that we're talking about with the millennials, that it will actually replace TV. So again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Millennials aren't as responsive to TV commercials and print advertisements. That's been working with the older generations. That is definitely phasing out. And their purchasing habits are really fundamentally different. So again, going back to finding out what those motivators are. And one of those is that they watch less television, are more likely to be loyal to brands that actually do attempt to create that relationship directly with them. They're seeking it on video. They're not going to call you and ask you what your proposition video, or they're doing all proposition value is, they're doing it all online and specifically through video. So what we're going to cover today, I said, this is a lot to take in, I know. there are, now we know all of this. How do we reach millennials? And there are three major ways to use video to reach those millennials. Today we're going to go over the first one, and that's email marketing. And the other one, obviously, social media and mobile marketing. These kind of all work together. And as I show you some examples, you can kind of decide, there's definitely some crossover there as well in some of these examples. So another big stat on that next slide that's specific to email is that 50% of millennials will read an email from a company if it includes video. And just a quick tip is to remember when you are sending out emails to include that word video. How else are they going to know it includes a video? Don't be afraid of it slowing anything down. These millennials have got it down. They've got the speed and the connection to handle it. But in your subject line of your email, just be sure to include the word video in the subject line. It just gives them alert to the fact that there is video inside. You'll get 50% of those millennials to actually read it and not get ignored. I'm sorry. And so for dealerships and specific to email marketing on the next slide, there are three best types of videos to include in your email marketing campaign. Again, I think this is specific to to your dealership. The first one is going to be walkarounds or test drive videos. The second one is dealership branded videos, and then testimonial videos. And these each have a special place in the millennials' heart. So real quickly, I just want to go over those individually. And the first one that we'll look at are walk-around videos and test drives on that next slide. So 85% of millennials find product demos helpful. We kind of hinted to that before. 76% of millennials want to be informed on specific topics. 75% want to learn things to become smarter. And as I'm kind of reading over these, just be sure to create inventory videos that are informative and highlight features and benefits and not get overly promotional, again, as I hinted to before. Oh, I'm sorry. And so on that next page, that was just kind of visually drilling that down, those percentages there. So we can go to the next one. And Brian, I had forgotten, you should be able to click right on that video as a great example. Oh, it's not going to let you on you. Maybe my Mac is, oh, it's a security notice. It should just...
I think it's coming up. Maybe not. Try to refresh it. We're on the YouTube page.
Yeah. Yeah, it should kind of frame right in. Maybe if you go back to the slide.
Sure.
Nope, it's not moving.
No, it's not going to convert, I don't think. You know what we can do is for everybody that's on here, I will, everybody that's on this webinar, I'll include this link to this video and I'll send it to you after the webinar.
Yeah, if I could, I've got it on mine, but that doesn't help you at all, does it?
I can switch the screen to you real quick. Would you like to do that?
I want to do that.
Okay. All right, it should be yours here in a sec.
My screen is kind of a mess. I apologize if anybody's looking at that one. Do you see my PowerPoint there?
Yes, yes we do.
Okay, great. I'm going to hit play now.
The 2011 Chevrolet Camaro SS, powered by a 6.2-liter V8 engine with a 6-speed automatic transmission with overdrive. This rear-wheel drive convertible, with fewer than 10,000 miles on the odometer, gets up to 25 miles per gallon. This Chevrolet features side airbags, rear spoiler, and premium wheels. Safety features include traction control, 4-wheel ABS, and StabiliTrak. Comfort and convenience features include parking sensors, premium sound, and power off. Give us a call to schedule your test drive today.
And so I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and you can switch the screen back to you, Brian, if you want to. It goes on to go into some Carfax information to really make it informative, like those tips that I have there, highlighted features and benefits. When we go into, am I moving around too much on you? I don't know if it's on my screen or yours. Do I have to push it back to you?
I said yes, we're on my screen now.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for doing that.
No problem. I'm here to help.
And so when I go into the next one, you will also see great examples of, again, that was the first walk around and test drive, but we're going to talk about the dealership branded next. Branded content is most effective for millennials when it's brief and entertaining, funny, fresh, new. But you'll notice that on that video, it was lightly branded. It wasn't over the top, but it did have an intro on there, and it's just very informative, an awesome test drive, and that's exactly what they're looking for. And so 6 in 10 millennials actually prefer to watch a company video than read a newsletter. So again, they just love video. They don't want to go to your website. They really aren't interested in reading a newsletter that you're emailing. Again, we're talking specifically via email. So when you're creating a branded video to go via email, you know, keep in mind that they aren't brand obsessed. That's why you saw that video that we just looked at, just kind of lightly branded. More than half say they will switch brands for a better deal. I know that's kind of scary out there. That's kind of all the talk when we're talking about millennials and you know, marketing to them. But 50% also say that they will return to a brand if they have earned their trust and if they have served them the content in the way that they prefer to see it. And if they have kind of respected who they are and their wishes and taken the time to find out who they are, and that's what we're here for. You know, definitely video is the way to build that trust. On the next slide, there was just another example. I think that one we can go ahead and I can send that out to you all. But I am going to describe it to you. You know, you can see there was an introduction on this one that is very lightly branded. You can see they kind of have their logo in the background. This is an example. You know, the first one was more test drive video. This one is more of a walk around. Definitely something that you would, you know, you could send out via email. There's a spokesperson there that is going through the informative part and the information aspect and that value to the consumer, you know, while also kind of creating that trust, creating that emotional value by speaking directly to them in a language and with messaging using kind of those persuasive keywords that they really like. The third way is through testimonial videos. And so on the next slide, it's just, you know, just kind of my intro there. It's, you know, the word of mouth is still the most powerful marketing method out there, especially in dealerships. We know this, that's why we focus on it. Create videos that feature your happy customers and loyal customers. I saw a statistic at another, at one of the sessions this past weekend that had a pretty low, it was kind of how many customers can you actually get to do a testimonial? Some people thought it was low. It was, you know, slightly under 10%. I actually thought that was pretty high. Like, if you can get 10% of your customers to do a testimonial, whether that be, you know, an online rating, but definitely a testimonial video, I thought that was really good, especially if you're, you know, selling some of the numbers of vehicles a month that I know some of you are. So again, video testimonials are actually considered more trustworthy and credible than written reviews. You know, the baby boomers like those written reviews. Absolutely do not get rid of your written reviews. I've got a great example of someone who took a screenshot of their written reviews and included it on an outro of their testimonial video. I thought that was a great way, again, an omni-channel approach, overall marketing strategy, how to get those to cross over and just really support the message that you're trying to get across. And as we transition in from one generation to another, you're going to have to use some of those transitional methods to get the best bang for your buck. On this next slide, it kind of speaks to that. You know, I am talking about video marketing here, but again, I don't want you to lose out on the testimonial aspect that millennials do rate online, not as much as their baby boomer parents. 69% of millennials find customer testimonials helpful during that purchasing process. And this graphic is just showing you that 60% of millennials do still rate products and services online. But again, they're telling us that they want to be served up this content and video, so let's just give it to them. Let's give them what they want. There's a few tips on the next slide that when you are doing your testimonial videos. So now I'm going back, say you're in the dealership, you're trying to get that testimonial video from your customer, whether that be a millennial. That picture probably isn't the best example. I should have picked someone a little younger, but ask them one question. You know, their way to increase the likelihood that you're going to get that testimonial video and get one that you can actually use and not have them look scared to death to give you one is ask them one thing and answer that. You have been walking through this this buying journey with them. Ask them one thing, maybe maybe something that your dealership was able to overcome for them. Maybe they appreciate the fact that there were so many videos that you sent, you know, your email videos to them. But the main thing is just tell their story, not yours. You know, try not to spoon feed them too much information. You can always add those layers once you get you know, your testimonial video kind of uploaded. You can add your dealership information, again, your logo, lightly branded, a call to action on there. Don't ever forget your call to action, but definitely make it about their story, because this is literally and directly speaking to your millennials. And again, I just kind of threw that in at the last minute to include your dealership rating in the outro. I thought that was very effective, and I'll include that example in there for you. So that wraps up our email section of the three ways. There are also 2 more ways that are going to be really effective, and we're going to go over those next time in part 2 of the 5 most effective ways to reach the largest car buying population in history. We'll also take a sneak peek at virtual reality, which overwhelmingly marketers both in automotive and out of automotive are saying is the next, you know, is just the next phase, like literally within this year. Everybody who has a mobile phone has access to virtual reality. My husband and I just went to buy a new phone 2 weeks ago, and we were given a VR viewer for free. It was like an accessory. So, you know, you're thinking about millennials, that tech version, we're going to get a sneak peek of that. I saw a lot of people demoing that at Digital Dealer, so that's pretty exciting for every dealership out there.
All right, Gina. At this time, this is Brian Ankney again. I'd like to invite everyone to ask questions. And if you go to the question, it's on the GoToWebinar pane that you have on the right side of your screen. Hit the plus sign, type in questions. If you're on an Apple or an Android device, it's actually at the top of the bottom of the screen. You should have it's four simple things. One of them is a question mark. You hit that, and you can ask a question. We've got a few questions in already, Gina. Should we stop doing our newsletter and just send a video? If so, what kind of video?
I would not stop your newsletter. Again, that number was, we're still in that transition mode. If it doesn't say 100%, or if it's not over, 85% that aren't responding, I would still continue to do those. And why wouldn't you include a video in your newsletter? So then that's part of that transition. The kind of video I would use are those exact same ones that we went over in the email, which are testimonials. I'm sorry, I just lost my place here. Make sure they're lightly branded, and then definitely those walk-around videos, test drive videos. How exciting would that be to get kind of that test drive video in your newsletter as well? Because I'm assuming, and if you're sending these out via print or via more traditional email, or I'm sorry, more traditional mail, just add a little link to wherever you're hosting that. Super easy for somebody just to go online and look at that. But do both. There's no reason why not to do both, for sure, and include, in your email you're going to have content, probably the same content you have in your newsletter. Make sure you're transitioning some of that over, vice versa.
Okay. Here's the next question. How long should our videos be?
That's a great question, because I think one of my tips in there was keep it brief. Definitely, so I'll tell you, again, we're in that transition, kind of that transition stage. Millennials like it kind of under 60 seconds. A minute 20 seconds is kind of a good gauge. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're tracking kind of our statistics on the back end, again, this is the millennials are catching up, but we're finding really high completion rates on watching a video that could be up to 3 minutes long. So kind of keep it within that sweet spot, I would say.
All right. Our next question is, should we, and you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but should we coach our customers on topics for the testimonials?
I think that's depending on the customer. Millennials are also more likely to give their opinion kind of up front. You kind of know where you stand with them. They've been doing a lot more research. They've been getting your emails. They've been watching your videos. They're kind of more upfront with when you are speaking with them, when you are closing the deal. They're still going to come into your dealership. Just because you gave them a test drive video and they have all these walk-arounds, that's creating that emotional and informational value, but they still have to come for delivery. And they're going to be more likely to already have built that connection with you and be more likely to give their opinion up front. So you shouldn't have any quests. You should know where you stand with them. And depending on the person, don't be afraid to coach them, because you've already kind of know what maybe their pain points were that your dealership was able to overcome, or you already kind of have that information from conversations with them of, they landed on one brand when they originally came in looking for another one. So if they are kind of stuck, just kind of use your sales training 101 and pick up on kind of some of that listening you've been doing and just ask them. The main thing is just ask them one question. It's not a lot of coaching. It's more of an interview style of a testimonial video. Ask them one question and allow them to answer. Make it about them, definitely.
Okay. Should we customize our videos to individual customers?
Yes. And I know you're not always going to be able to do that. So what we went over today is email videos. If you can, definitely, and even if that's just, so a lot of what I showed you today was kind of a, you know, maybe it's a live video, but it's something that's already been pre-recorded, but you can very easily add an introduction to that. You know, you're going to want to introduce yourself. You may have already had a conversation about their family to them, or you know, definitely customize it to them as much as you can. If this is the first time you've emailed them and maybe you don't know much about them, you know, make sure that you're telling them a little about you, you know, be a likable person, and what's your value proposition? Why do they want to do business with you? There's all kinds of ways to layer that information to them. And you're going to have a little bit of the content on your email that you send to them. Again, you're going to have the subject line, you know, in your subject line somewhere that this includes a video. Kind of a best practice too is you're going to have some content in there, so don't be afraid to put a little bit of information in the content, you know, a paragraph about who you are. Ask them, you know, how their daughter's dance class is going, or now that it's back to school, you could even mention something in that if you've had a conversation like, hey, you know, hope your kids are having a great time back to school. You know, just something to make it personal to them. You're going to include their name, your name, but also when you're sending the email, you might just be sending a link to that email so that it's not getting blocked in some of the spam filters as well. So they don't necessarily have to be served up the video embedded in your email, because again, the likelihood that that gets blocked might be a little higher, but they're going to click on it. Millennials are used to clicking on things, and they don't mind that at all. So use a combination of all of it.
All right. Well, that looks like that's our last question, Gina. This is Brian again with AutoSuccess. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I would like to invite you to come back. We'll send you a link to join the second half of this webinar. And so I invite you to come back and learn the second half of this. Thank you for coming. Gina, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
No, I think that covers it for now. I'm really excited. You know, this was kind of set up. I just really wanted your listeners to understand who the millennials are. The next time we won't go through all that. It'll just kind of be a review. I know that there will be additional listeners, so they'll be able to, you know, to listen to this first part, and then we're really going to take a deeper dive into practical ways for your dealership, really great examples on how to kind of execute what we're talking about.
Perfect. Thank you for coming, Gina. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope everybody on the line learned some things that you can take action on today to improve the way you sell at your dealership. And I invite you back to many future AutoSuccess webinars. And if you haven't joined AutoSuccess webinars on Facebook, please do it. This is Brian Ankney. I thank you all for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you.